Hey everyone, and welcome to another figurine review. Today I'm going to be looking at the pop-up parade Meliodas from the Seven Deadly Sins, or also known as Nanatsu No Taizai. Now this is technically the second or the third release in this set because he has been released alongside Ban, and the first in the series was the pop-up parade Elizabeth. So I'm going to be having a look at Meliodas today, and I'll also be comparing him to Elizabeth as well as the quality, because I was very impressed with the Elizabeth, not so impressed with some of the other pop-up parades. It seems to be series by series, so we'll see how it goes, and then when I look at Ban, we'll look at all three together. I don't know if they're going to be doing any more of these, but for a general setup, these three, pretty okay to have just as a standalone set. Granted, it would be better to have all of the Seven Deadly Sins, but if you were going to have an Escanor, it would be a little hard to do it. But anyway, we're going to be looking at Meliodas. Now, in the box, he looks quite good. Very good shading, nice facial details, good shading on his clothes, good detail on his clothes. He's got a sacred treasure. Other than that, it's a pretty standard pop-up parade box. I haven't really showcased it before, but the pop-up parade box did change at some point, where the logo is a lot more prominent and the names are a bit cleaner and things like that, but it's not really a major difference. It's still the clear box without any promo images because it's a clear box, so you can already see what you're buying. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you haven't watched it already, first two seasons of Seven Deadly Sins are great. Really enjoyed the manga. The rest of the anime, not so great, which is a bit of a shame, but first two seasons, fantastic. Loved it. So let's crack them open. Alright, now, love it or hate it, that base is here to stay, and so is Meliodas. Now, quickly, he looks fantastic. He's like, the detail is freaking amazing. Much like the Elizabeth, it looks like they went all out. The detailing, the gold, the nice crest on his sacred treasure, it all looks good. Two tones of yellow on his hair makes it look like sort of the colors transitioning, gives it a lot of depth, really nice. The seam line in his shirt is part of the actual design, which is great. His little like vest thing looks good, the tie in there is good, the paint on the buckles and everything is clean. His little boots and the way they flare out, really nice. I'm glad that they went with his sort of like standard boar hat mane design, because I'm not a big fan of Meliodas' other outfits. This is what I think of when I think Meliodas. Alternatively, I much prefer the design that they chose with Elizabeth, even though it's an outfit she doesn't wear that much. I think it looks a heck of a lot better than the standard boar hat outfit. But in Meliodas' case, I think this is what I think of when I see him. Although Sacred Treasure could have been the first season sword hilt, because I thought that was a really cool weapon. But this way gives it a little more oomph. And have a quick closer look. So the detail on his face is good. He looks a little tiny bit off. Does he have a mark on his nose? He's got a tiny little mark on his nose. He looks just a tiny bit off. I think his face should have been just maybe a little squished in more, a little bit rounder. But generally that's fine. He's got a nice little cheeky smirk. Nice little bit of blush in his cheeks. Depending on the angle you look at, the blush looks a bit weird. His eyes are really well detailed. And if I had any other complaint about his face, the hair could have been just maybe a tiny bit sharper. It's either a bit rounder or a bit sharper. It depends on what sort of design they're going for. But generally there's no mistaking that this is Meliodas, which is great. I'm just going to hold him up. a little more of a look. Nice folds in his clothes, nice shadings, a little bit of a mess there, but that's not really that bad. There's a bit of a mark on his pants there, but you're looking at it from that angle. Ooh, this might it be one of the cleanest pop-up parades I've seen with a slightly more complicated design. Yeah, so there are a couple issues on the back, but nothing major, and it is like exactly at the angle that you're viewing it from that you don't see anything. Yeah, this is actually a rock solid pop-up parade. And bring Elizabeth back in. Even though pop-up parades kind of aren't in scale, they are in scale with each other mostly. So you can see how Meliodas compares to Elizabeth. So if Elizabeth was standing straight, you'd probably see that she stands quite a bit taller than Meliodas, but they fit together, and it is nice, sort of like the sort of comparative art style of the two, because the way Meliodas is drawn compared to other characters is quite a bit different. So it looks fine like that, and it looks like they are part of the same series, except for that freaking piss yellow base. Yeah, I really don't know what they were thinking with that. Could have done a million other different colors. I don't know why yellow. I don't think yellow when I think of Meliodas. I actually think a bit more green when I think of Meliodas, and that might be because of his sword most of the time, or his eyes. So yeah, I don't know why we went with this. Could have even done purple to match with the Elizabeth, which leads me to believe that Barnes' color is going to be completely different, because like the Gurren Lagann ones, they both had the same shade of like the charcoalish grey, but these are completely different, so we'll see how that one goes. But generally they look fine. They look good together. Again, the Elizabeth is one of the best pop-up parades I've seen. Clean paint job, clean face, great details. And the Meliodas, from the main angle, perfect. Even from a distance, he looks even more like Meliodas now, which is great. It's just a bit closer, he looks a tiny bit off. But generally, I think that they look great together. Because of the hexagon base, there's this big gap between them, so that looks a bit odd, but you can always do stuff like push one in front of the other. See how that angle goes, or vice versa. Although if you do it like that, it makes Meliodas look even shorter. But you know, you can do whatever you want with these, really. Just wish that it wasn't the hexagon. Again, I would sound like a broken record, but I feel like it needs to be said every single time. Especially if this is your first time seeing one of my reviews. I just don't like the hexagon base. Don't really have a particular reason why, I just don't think they're great. If I were to pick one reason in particular, it's definitely the colour choices. But otherwise, yeah, it's a great figure. If you ignore the piss yellow base, it's a fantastic figure. And the price point's great. Again, one of the things that I love about Pop-Up Parade is their willingness to do series that don't get merchandise normally, as well as focus in on male characters that wouldn't get merch at all, and Seven Deadly Sins fits right in that, where we don't get a lot of figures anyway, least of all male and female figures. So it's great to finally have some semblance of a set being made. I don't think we'll get all Seven Deadly Sins, but it would be great if we could. But I'll take what I can get. So far, Pop-Up Parade's been pretty consistent doing sets of 3, but there are some series where they've done a lot more and things like that, so there is potential for this to continue. Whether or not they will, that remains to be seen, but generally what we've got is great as is. And in the next video I'll show you all the bun, and I imagine we'll see a similar quality in him as well, and it does seem like a thing of series by series has similar quality, so all the Seven Deadly Sins so far have looked great, whereas like the Konosuba one that I looked at, the Union, looked a little suspect. The Gurren Lagann ones were great and things like that, so I think that the Seven Deadly Sins will turn out fantastic. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you all next time.